Scope through scopes is Queese. Appreciate everybody's been rocking with the channel, supporting, subscribing. We appreciate it all. Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully, it's starting off on the right foot. I know y'all got that, y'all have resolutions in order and all that. So, I wish y'all the best as far as that goes. So, looking at the topic today, man, we're going to talk about the face of the league. Now, I don't want to have the standard face of the league talk that, people normally have where they try to decipher who is going to be and who, all that stuff. Like, that's not what I want to have with y'all today. Because I think when we talk about the face of the league, as far as the new era, I think it looks a lot different than what we accustomed, that person to have as far as characteristics go and image. I think that looks a lot different than previous years. And I think our expectations for what the face is supposed to look like and behave and all that stuff, I think it's a broader conversation. And I think, it's a bunch of different factors that I want to get into with y'all today. So the first thing we're going to go into is when y'all think of the face, we always break it down to a singular person. But I don't think moving forward, we should look at it that way. One of the main reasons is because when we think of the face, we think of things where these guys need to be a top 1 to 2 player in the league, right? You gotta, have a really good image on and off the court, right? You gotta have to, respect officials and certain things, right? You have to, model yourself as somebody, almost like a role model, right? If y'all look at the canvas now of the players that could be up for that position, and we always assume they got to be American born too. Let me throw that in there as well. If y'all look at the players in that position that could be up for that particular slot, you got Anthony Edwards, who great player. He's trending upward, but he already has the off the court issues. Now, I'm not here to get into somebody's personal business because that ain't that deep. But the man has, four baby moms. He had the send the video fiasco last year. I ain't gonna, so if y'all want to check that out, type in Anthony Edwards and send the video, right? You can't have your face have that type of stuff off the court. It just don't look good, right? And then if you go into on the court, after the game, he cursing in the interviews, he, using slurs that the NBA doesn't approve of. He can't be your face, Adam Silver will have nightmares if he had Anthony Edwards being the face of his league. You know what I'm saying? Jason Tatum, another great player. He has the championship, right? But I think the NBA did a disservice by starting that conversation between him and Jaylen Brown 3 years too early. I'm from the belief that Jaylen Brown just last year came close to Tatum. The years before that, Tatum was clearly the best player. That was such a forced conversation, if you ask me. I think they were just trying to drive those narratives for a contending team to get them more in the headlines. But I don't think they were particularly that close. But when you make Tatum, when you try to put him as a Robin or make him a co-Batman, you automatically can't be the face of the league if you ain't even unanimously the best player on your team. So you take him out the equation, right? You got players like Ja Morant. We already know his off the court issues, right? So he's out the paint as well, right? So if you're looking at other players, who really else American born is ascending upward that could be the face of the league? KD's on his way out, Steph's on his way out, LeBron's on his way out, right? So who else could you really look at? Devin Booker doesn't really have the cachet, the slide there too as well. You really can't look at anybody else. Now, when I ask y'all it has to be singular, is because those things I just named, you're not going to find the full package in one player. At least just not right now. There's nobody out there for you to be like, he has everything that we're looking for as far as American-born based players. So I think the face of the league is going to go back to what it was in the 2000s. Think about that time period. It wasn't just one face back then in that era. Right, you had people who loved AI, and that's who they, worshipped as far as basketball goes. You had people that love Kobe. You had people that love Shaq. People that love Vince. People that love Tracy. It was more like, yo, this is the best guy on my team, and I like the way he plays, or I like the way he dresses, and it was a lot of other things like The tattoos, like the image was whoever the people identified them with. I think the people chose who they wanted to be the face back then. I think the previous decade, the LeBron face of the league decade, the NBA chose him. You know, they chose him from an early age, you know, as soon as he was coming up, and then it continued. You know, he lived up to the expectations coming out of it, right? So I think that's going to change moving forward as far as that goes. Now, I want to ask you, do it needs to be American based? Because I just list y'all some of the players that, you know, we have looking, you know, American based that could, you know, take the American born that could take the, you know, take that spot. But the best players in the league now are pretty much international. It's going to be hard for you to find somebody that's American born top 5 when you got Jokic in the league, Shai Gilgeous in the league, you got Luka in the league. Like, you got guys who already about to take up the first 3-4 slots. You got Wemby in the league. Like, those slots are about to be taken up by them. So we're going to look at it and say, nah, he has to be born here. It's going to be kind of tough to find that. Now, if you could find somebody like Giannis, because I think Giannis is probably the closest example of someone who just has the personality out there. He's not fully immersed in American culture, but he's close enough. He's close, you know what I'm saying? He's around. He could speak very well, right? Like, he could, you know, he has the attitude. So he has some of those things that where you could kind of, you know, look at him towards. But the rest of those guys, they not visible. You need your face to be visible. Those guys ain't on social media. Those international players I named, they don't have an online presence. They just come and hoop and go home. But for a league like the NBA, where their stars are up front, they're up front. Like, they're not like the other sports like baseball and football, where like those guys, like they don't really like show their personality that much. Like, you all really know Patrick Mahomes' personality that much? Like, they not really front face out there like the NBA players are. Like, you know, they blur entertainment, they blur rap, they blur all other, you know, you see them out and about. And it's a little bit more of a personal, you know, thing there with them. So you need your face to kind of exude that. So those guys, you know, like I said, you ain't going to be able to find everything in everybody, you know, being the case as far as the face go. Now, if we talk about, you know, what does it look like, you know, moving forward? You know, do y'all think the face of the league or, you know, faces of the league need to be activists of a sort? Not even activists, like, well, speak out on social issues. And before I even go there, you know what? Let me backtrack. Do you think they need to be, you know, immersed in the culture? Because there's two separate cultures in the NBA. The NBA is dominated by, you know, African American players. So that's a culture in itself. And then you have the NBA culture. And those two, you know, are synonymous. Now, they're going a little bit further apart just because of the rise of international players. But those things are still kind of close. And you need to immerse yourself and understand the NBA culture to be able to, you know, have that type of run there. And you need to have power. Do y'all see any of these guys that have power in the league? Because Steph had power. Now, I'm on the side of LeBron was the face, and Steph isn't really a face. He's a face to certain people. But LeBron is the unanimous face amongst the players and the fans. But Steph had power to change the game on the court level. LeBron had power to change the game on the off the court level. That's what gave those guys that mantle. Is there anybody now that you see other players look at? It's like, yeah, he's big dog, or he's, you know, whatever, right? Maybe you need LeBron and them to retire to start looking at guys that way. But I think nobody looks at some of these guys like they have power in the league. And I don't even think they want the power. I think they seen what comes with it and all that extra drama. And I don't think they want the power with that. But if you look at, you know, some of the guys there. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I also think like the West is crazy this year. And the West been crazy for the last couple years. To be, you know, to get that title, you got to dominate. Winning means you got to dominate. And the way the NBA is structured now on the media and fan side, if you don't win every year, you ain't that dude. Unless you get injured, if you just lose head up to somebody, you ain't that dude. So without that year, Giannis, you know, won in the, you know, I think it was a year or two after, and he got injured during that Miami series, and he came back like when it was like 1 or 2 games left, the fact that they still lost, people like blamed him, right? It wasn't even like, yo, if he played the whole series, they clearly would have beat Miami. People's like, I don't care, yo, you lost again. Like, you're not going to win every year. We were spoiled that LeBron was in the East, which wasn't competitive as much as the West. So we were able to see him go to the finals 8 straight times, which means the NBA could market that guy from October all the way to the summer, all the way through to the finals. So for them, it was just nonstop headlines, easy cash cow for them, right? They could, make him the face, and they could keep, ringing true just because of his dominance, right? And if you look at other sports, they don't really, the guys that they have, they got to win, right? Ohtani, like he just won. But in those other sports, they don't have the same requirement that they have to win every year to maintain being that guy of the league. Mahomes, he doesn't have to win every year to still keep that, right? Because the way they market their players, there's not just one person. And because the NBA makes the players the focal point of the league, that's kind of where you have to run into instead of the teams and, a group, more of a group effort. So that's what you run into. So, but one of the things I want to bring back to that I talked about is do you feel like the players need to be able to be outspoken? Because recent times, there's a lot more things that been dividing the country, like just as far as, y'all know what's going on, like, whether it be on the political aspect or, police aspect. There's so many things dividing the country, right? There's so many more, with social media being around, there's more headlines, there's more, divisiveness online where certain rhetoric is spewed out. So do y'all feel like, when it comes to a point where big issues arise, does that player need to be able to speak out? Because that's one of the things that not helped LeBron, but that's one of the things that made people feel comfortable looking at him being that, because he always spoke out, regardless if it was you were on his side or not on his side. Jordan ain't really never speak out like that all the time. In the 2000s, players really wasn't required to, and issues weren't really too big or too frequent that they feel like they had to. So do y'all feel like the next person has to be that? Because a lot of these guys don't really speak too much. Let's say they, maybe 1 out of every 3 issues or 4 issues. And, do y'all feel like that next person has to be able to speak, or, stand on the line? Because there's a lot of business involved with those decisions. You got to be able to speak freely, right? If you sound like you're just a puppet or sound like you just want to protect your investments, then you're going to get called out for it, So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like the guys, they're going to be able to blur a line in between it. Certain things, they'll be able to either, get away with not speaking too much, maybe put out like a little statement. But I don't think they're going to make people fall on the sword, because you're going to have guys who don't represent the league still speaking out, and you could just kind of hop on what they say. Like, I think Jaylen Brown's been outspoken about things. Kyrie has been outspoken about things. You could just kind of hop on to what they said and, add your little 2 cents in there, and that'll satisfy people as far as speaking out goes. But that's what I think on the face going forward. Like I said, I think it's a bigger conversation where we can't just sit there and just plug in what we think the face looks like, because it's not going to be the same requirements. These guys are coming into the league with millions already in the bank. They don't have that, they just want to go hoop and go home for the most part, right? Live the lifestyle. So some of those other things that come being a leader of the league, you don't really have to, it's not going to be the same is what I'm going to say there as far as that goes. Stern was trying to control it. When he was in there, he was like, oh, I seen y'all looking at AI and some of these other guys. Nah, y'all going to start wearing suits. I can't control what you put in your hair. I can't control your tats, but y'all going to start wearing suits. And we going to make sure y'all understand this is a professional league. It's an entertainment league now. So, maybe Silver don't care about some of those other things as much, as long as you can put the ball in the hoop and, don't get into locked up. But I think it'll be interesting to see how the NBA goes about it. Maybe they change their model. Maybe it's not, maybe, as LeBron retires, the owners and the teams can gain more control on how they want the league to look. And maybe you see, the players that just want to hoop and get paid millions, they'll fall right in line. So we'll see. We'll see how that looks, though, man. Y'all let me know, man. I think I touched on what I wanted to carry on with. Let me just double check here. I said, man, it's gonna be hard to find those players. You got Zion. He can't be the face. You never see his face. So you can't make him the face, right? LaMelo cursed every word out his mouth. It ain't, like I said, he another player that'll give Silver nightmares. So I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. But this is Through the Scope. This is Queez. Again, appreciate everybody still here with the video. I appreciate it all. We appreciate it all. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hope y'all enjoy your day. I'm out.